So hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about the quest to make my rim brake TCR, the black one, a little bit more of an aero machine for the flat and fast days. Now on that bike I currently ride a 50mm front clincher and a 50mm rear clincher, and those wheels I built up myself. They're Fast Sports rims and Dura Ace hubs. You can see the build videos for those on my channel. But it got me thinking actually, and I do actually have a couple of other wheel sets where I've got like a staggered setup, so I've got a slightly deeper rear wheel and a slightly shallower front wheel, and that's kind of what the trend is. But if you think about it, that's actually completely the wrong way around. If you're going to ride like a staggered setup to kind of save a bit of weight instead of having two really deep section wheels, you really need your deeper rim on the front, because it's the front wheel that sees the most kind of clean air, the free stream velocity, and the rear wheel, it doesn't really get you many benefits if you go super deep on the rear wheel for a road bike, especially if you're trying to save weight, because by the time the air's got to the rear wheel, it's kind of disturbed quite a lot. It's got the vortex streaks from your thighs and your calves. It's probably not stayed attached around most of the frame, and you're asking quite a lot of it if you think it's going to stay attached by the time it's got to the rear wheel. Whereas the front wheel is really the thing that air hits first, and it sets everything up for what's downstream. And I would say the front wheel, the fork and the handlebars, I mean apart from the rider of course, is probably the most important part of the whole aerodynamic package of the bike. So, and you might get laughed at, and it's counter trend, I don't care if I get laughed at, but I'm going to build this next wheel set with a front rim which is 88mm deep, and it's going to be deeper than the 50mm. I'm going to keep the 50mm on the back, and yeah, that is in my eyes the way it should be. You need a deeper front wheel and a shallower rear wheel. Now if it's really windy and you're quite a lightweight rider and you don't like riding in crosswinds, then a really deep front wheel might not be for you. On those days then probably just put the 50mm back on or something shallower. I'm going to build this one up. This is an 88mm rim. I've got my favourite road front hub. Absolutely can't knock this. Building your own wheels is super cheap as well. Like if you direct source the rims and you buy the hubs from, you know, a reliable supplier, and shout out to DCR Wheels in Sussex in the UK. David supplies me with these. They're good value and he ships them to wherever I am, and he's always got what I want. So cheers David. If you're interested in his wheels, he does custom wheels and he also can send you parts if you want to build your own wheels. So I'll put his website in the description below. Don't take any commission or anything like that, but yeah, really good guy, very reliable, and he's very wise. So if you're starting to get into wheel building, you can ask him questions as well, because he's very knowledgeable and he does spend a lot of time explaining things to you. So shout out to David, cheers for sending me the hubs so quickly. I ordered these from the UK, they only took literally like 4 days to arrive, so that's pretty impressive. And I do keep quite a lot of these hubs in stock because I like them so much. It's a Bitex RAF 12 if you're interested. Now like I said, I'm going to build this combat with 20 holes on the front wheel. If you're a super lightweight rider, you could go down to even like 16 holes and make a very aerodynamic front wheel, because don't forget, a lot of the aerodynamic losses that come from the front wheel are the spokes whipping round. So if you can reduce the area of the spokes that whip round, you're going to make some savings there as well. So if you're maybe less than 70 kilos or something, maybe on a TT bike as well, we've got steady state efforts, nothing too hard, nothing too much over the front wheel. You can even go down to 16 holes. I'm quite heavy, you know, I'm like 88 kilos, so I stick with 20. That's probably on the low side for me, but if it's a race bike and I don't use it that much, then 20 is good. But if you're really light, you can go down to 16, really deep rim. And because the rim is so deep, basically the spokes end up being quite short. And the short spokes means that they're inherently stiffer. So you can actually use a very light gauge spoke like a Sapim CX Ray and not suffer too much from wheel flex, because of the deep rim, the spoke length is shorter, so there's not so much total stretch in the spoke. So it's a kind of a win-win. Obviously I'm not going to use this carbon rim for bombing down hills in the summer, being so heavy, and yeah, I'll just use it for the flat stuff, but cheers. So I'll just take you through the build. 88mm front rim, 20 holes, Sapim CX Ray spokes, brass nipples. Always use brass because they don't corrode so easily as aluminium, and if they get a bit salty and manky, you can always still turn them. The aluminium ones can just crumble. And Bitex RAF 12 front hub, can't go wrong with that. So on the left is the 50mm rim which I normally use on the front wheel, and on the right is the new 88mm deep Fast Sports rim. Same hubs, obviously different colour, same spokes. Obviously the spokes on the right hand wheel here are a bit shorter, so they're a bit lighter. Same number of holes, 20 spokes in each.
Exactly the same tyres, a 5000 25mm. The one on the left looks a bit bigger because it's older, so they balloon a bit as they get older. The one on the right is brand new, so it looks a bit skinnier. Let's see how much weight I'm gaining with the 88mm deep rim. Now, like I said, it's the same build, apart from the one on the right does have a Conti lightweight tube in. The one on the left is just a standard Conti tube, so might lose kind of 30 grams on the tube, but obviously the rim's going to be a lot heavier. Now, before we get into the weights, let's have a quick look at the profile. These GP5000s are a lot narrower than the equivalent 4000s. They're actually much more true to size, and you can see that the profile of that works perfectly with this Fast Sports 88mm deep rim, which is 25 nominally wide. It does go to about 26 a bit further down, but profile wise the sidewall of the tyre meets the brake track really nicely, so aero credentials pretty good for this. If you want to get really nerdy, you can actually fill that gap up with silicone sealant. I'll refer you to Cycle Speed Tours' channel to see how he does that, and it makes it look really good. If you're going to get punctures all the time, you ride on rubbish roads, I wouldn't bother. But if you're running tubs, or you're pretty confident you're never going to get punctures, filling that gap, making a nice flat transition, you can do that with like bathroom sealant. So Cycle Speed Tours, check out his channel and show you how that's done. But let's have a little look at the weights. So this is the original wheel and tyre and tube and everything. 1050 pretty much, bang on, which is pretty respectable for a deep rim. Let's have a look at the other one. 1225. So what's that? 175 gram weight penalty for that seriously deep front wheel. I don't really mind. How often do you finish your ride with 175 millilitres of water left in your bottle? There's your weight saving. But yeah, it looks a bit weird when we stick it on the bike, so let's have a look at that next. So that's it, that's the finished build. Really easy to build actually. Barely needed the truing stand. In fact, the truing stand is pretty crap, the one that I've got. And I just did it by equal spoke tensions on the left and right. And a testament to a good rim with good quality drillings is if the spoke tensions are balanced left and right, then you really don't need a truing stand to get it pretty much, I'd say plus or minus 1mm true. And then the final true you can just do in the bike to the forks, because the forks will be slightly different from your truing stand anyway. And yeah, I basically dropped it straight in. I didn't even need to adjust the caliper. So good quality drillings from Fast Sports, thumbs up there. Got about 110 kilos in each spoke in the front wheel. Went together really easy. Now I will just say this about deep rims. All deep rims aren't created equal, and why do I say that? Well, basically you need to have a mould and a layup process which doesn't warp or shrink during curing and demoulding. Why do I say that? Well, when you get a really deep rim with a very deep profile, it has a lot of like second moment of area in that vertical plane. And if you've got a rim that isn't round when it comes out of the mould because it's warped or it's shrunk a little bit or the layup's been funny, there's only so much pulling you can do with the spokes to pull the wheel back into round. With a very shallow box section aluminium rim or something like that, if it's not round it doesn't really matter, because the spoke tension has such a big influence on the final shape that you can really pull it into a perfect circle, or you can make it egg shaped, or you can make it oval shaped. With a deep carbon rim, because they're so stiff in that plane, you really need them to be really round when they come out of the mould, because adding another 10 or 20 kilos in the few spokes where you've got a high spot, it really won't pull it down. So Fast Sports, I used to find their rims weren't that round, and it created quite a bit of a headache when doing the radial truing of the wheel. But these latest ones, the last couple of years, I've noticeably noticed they've got a lot better. And the deeper the rim, the more round you need it when it comes out of the mould. And it's actually quite hard to get right in carbon. Carbon never comes out of the mould and stays straight. It never stays as in the 3D mould shape. You always get some sort of like warping. But can I notice the extra weight of these wheels? No. Can I notice them being extra fast? No. On paper they probably are. Looks a bit weird, sounds great. But yeah, I'll have to do some real world testing on some flat courses. But so far, unless it's really, really windy, this is going to be my wheel set of choice. Cheers for coming, see you in the next one.
So I hope you enjoyed that little talk about offset rim combos. Get the deeper one on the front. It's going to be faster and you can save a bit of weight on the rear, and the aero gains on the rear arguably are much less than your potential gains on the front. So get the deeper one on the front. Cheers and see you next one.